Holy! The narrative around this 2025 Toronto Blue Jays team has shifted. This team right now looks like an absolute wagon.
You are Locked On Blue Jays, your daily Toronto Blue Jays podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jays. Thank you for making Locked On Blue Jays your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. As always, I'm Braden Iwasco. He's Carter First. You can find us on Twitter, Braden5 Iwasco. Carter First, too, as well. Our main Twitter account, at Locked On Jays. You can follow us on Instagram and TikTok, at Locked On Blue Jays. And if you're new here to YouTube, make sure you do hit that subscribe button. It does help us out. It's free to do so. You might as well. You get your podcasts, your shorts, your live streams, your videos, the whole ordeal. And if you're listening anywhere else as well, we appreciate it. So, yeah, we got a lot to talk about. Don't get me wrong, a absolute ton to talk about. I am in the middle of the ocean right now on a cruise, so I was not actually going to be on these episodes, but it turns out there's Wi-Fi. So why would I not hop on at 12:30 in the morning to talk some Blue Jays with Carter? My man, it's been a weekend for sure, hasn't it?
Yeah, just another weekend in paradise for the Toronto Blue Jays is how it's kind of been the last four series. Obviously, a weekend in paradise for you, going to be a week in paradise and a little bit longer, obviously, with you enjoying a little bit more of the sun on your cruise. Obviously, still getting the grind in with your Blue Jays team. And obviously, it's a good time to be watching the Blue Jays right now because they're playing a pretty good brand of baseball with really only three established starting pitchers. So again, there has been a lot of bumps in the road. Obviously, still a lot of bumps that we're going to have to talk about on this episode, especially with that third game. But overall, the Minnesota Twins, a team that you're going to be battling with down the stretch in the AL wildcard. So definitely nice to get ahead of them and take 2 out of 3 with their first series of the year.
Yeah, man. You know, I think the biggest conversation, obviously, we're going to have to talk about Bowden Francis, his start again, you know, obviously not what you want to see. And we'll talk about all that. But I think the bigger picture here is the big conversation. A complete change of narrative is going on with this Toronto Blue Jays team. I mean, I was looking at Twitter, I would say, before the series win or the series sweep against the Athletics, even the series win against the Phillies, there were still conversations of what really is this team? Can they have success? To now, it's like the fans are back. The fans are back engaged. And I think that tells you everything you need to know about how this team is playing, because it's all positivity right now on Twitter, on Instagram, in our comment sections. Everybody is like, I'm back on the train. Here we go again. And honestly, I said it last episode, I think on Friday, Carter, that I don't know the last time that I've had this much fun watching baseball. And I put out a tweet that said, screw it. You know, we don't like to use the Twitter hashtags or the sometimes the cornball, whatever sayings that this team brings up, like to the core and whatever else. But I said, screw it. Lights up, let's go. I'm so in for this team. I want to see them succeed. I want to see them do well. And obviously I always do. But these games are so much more fun to watch when this team is having success. And I don't mean having success just in the wins column. It's having success in the at-bats. It's having success on the mound. It's being able to put everything together at once, or one thing pick up the other thing. Instead of it being this, you know, really have to sweat a game out to just get a win. Instead, we're getting to points where we're thinking this team has a chance to sweep series or win series against amazing baseball teams. And so, I don't know, man. It just feels like the entirety of the fan base is just right back where we want them, where, you know, to watch this team succeed as a country, as an entire fan base. And I don't want to overblow this and say this is the best team in the world, but it's nice to be competing again. I mean, this team is in a wild card spot. This is where we wanted to be for the last 2-3 years, and this team is finally showing us some type of momentum, I guess.
Yeah, we're just finally seeing some consistency from this team that we just haven't seen this entire season. We've seen how good this team can be. We've seen what their ceiling is. We just haven't really established a floor. And over these last couple of weeks, we really have seen that floor. And offensively, when you look at this team, it's not like it's one or two guys carrying this entire offense. I guess you could maybe kind of make the case with Addison Barger, but you're getting production from Bo Bichette, from George Springer, who's hitting home run after home run after home run, especially in this series. Obviously, Alejandro Kirk having good at bats. Tyler Heineman is the next coming of Jesus Christ, just continuing to be dominant at the plate, playing like his career is on the line, seeming like every single at bat. You're getting production from Nathan Lucas, Ernie Clement, who didn't have a great series, but still having a very good season. You're getting like Jonathan Clausen coming in, Alan Roden in the third game of this series, has only played 2 games in the last 8 days. He comes up with a double. The only one that, again, you're really kind of asking for more from is Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Again, not the greatest series from him, but still did have some decent at-bats. So this offense is really starting to come together, and they're starting to show you that they can be consistent and at least competitive in a lot of these baseball games. Because even looking at this Minnesota Twins series, you went against some good starting pitching. Bailey Ober, who's traditionally been very good against the Toronto Blue Jays. You went against Chris Paddock, who, again, might not be like the flashiest name out there, but has had a quietly good season. And Joe Ryan, obviously, in this third game. And then you have the bullpen where you're getting production from literally everyone, especially when you don't have a rock solid starting pitching. Other than obviously your top 3 guys, you got two games out of the stretch where one of them is Bowden Francis, which we'll kind of get into later on this episode. And then you got the to be announced games every single time, whether it's Paxton Schultz, whether it's Braden Fisher, whether it's Eric Lauer making an appearance at some point in that game. You're getting a lot of good outings from a lot of these pitchers that before the season started, you didn't even think were going to be on the roster. So everything's just starting to come together, and they're just playing a whole lot better of a brand of baseball over these last couple of weeks than even at the start of the season, and especially since that 2024 dreaded season that we had to watch 162 games of.
Yeah, and there's a couple of points I want to touch on there. Obviously, the pitching, first of all. To get a series win where you have Bowden Francis on the mound one day, who, again, we're not high on, and we'll talk about that. And then the second game is, a bullpen TBD game. And you somehow win a series against a team that you're battling in contention for a wild card spot with. That is massive. And that's the type of wins and series wins that you have to get to be a good baseball team, to be a playoff baseball team. And we're getting it. And that's what's exciting, right? Is I think you go into this series and you see the TBD, you see the Bowden Francis, and you're like, oof, and then you're already thinking, 0-2. Then what happens in the third game? If the offense doesn't show up, you could be swept this series. But instead of that, you somehow turn that into a win. So what this baseball team has been able to do over the past, honestly, 2 weeks, Carter, has been unbelievable. I think just not even for the baseball side of things. I think if you think about it from a fan aspect, keeping people engaged, giving everybody a team to cheer for again. I was seeing a ton of negativity, and even after the Athletic series, and I talked about this earlier, but just the change of mindset from a fan base, and that's where we come from, right? We're not paid by Sportsnet to say good things. If this team plays good, we'll be excited. If this team plays bad, we'll let you know about it. We're not sugarcoating anything for anybody, and so at the end of the day, I understood everybody's frustrations and queries with this team, but when they go out and show you that they are willing to play good baseball and showing you that they're willing to work and grind and not give up on games, that's a big component here. And I think that's what's bringing this fan base back. It's not the fact that, they're just getting wins, so the fans are going to. It's the fact that they're down in baseball games. I think the second most in the MLB right now for comeback wins. And it's that type of play that brings fans back because they're seeing a team that wants to do whatever it takes to win. And that is that's a Canadian brand of sports. That's what gets you loved by Canadian sports fans is the want to win, the want to compete, the want to be the best, because, we see it in hockey all the time, right? You see teams claw and battle and give 150% on the ice. They'll give their left leg to play. And I think now that you're seeing that from this Toronto Blue Jays team, it shows you the values of what it is to be Canadian a little bit. And that's what's driving this fan base back to this team. So huge shout out to these guys. I mean, there's a couple close ball games here that could have went either way, but instead they turn the tides and they are able to closeout wins. To me, that's the biggest component out of all this is the ability to get comeback wins.
Yeah, it's crazy how winning changes everything and it really fixes all of your problems. Even just like you said, with that sentiment about comeback wins, just looking at this last series, you're down in that first game, Bo Bichette with a nice 2-run single. Obviously, you battle back in that game. Looking at the second game, George Springer with another home run to put you ahead. Even against Joe Ryan, you don't end up winning that game, but you're down 2-1 in that game. You have some good at bats, some quality at bats against a very good pitcher in Joe Ryan. And again, it's not enough, especially with what you got on the mound that day. But one thing with this team right now is that a lot of players on this team are kind of playing with something to prove and is trying to kind of prove these doubters wrong. A lot of people hating on this Toronto Blue Jays team, which is pretty fair based off what their production was in 2024. But just looking at a lot of these guys, Nathan Lucas, a guy that's kind of been written off his entire career, Ernie Clement being DFA'd multiple times, even Bo Bichette, a guy, a superstar in this league, coming off one of the worst seasons, definitely the worst season of his career, had something to prove as well. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. getting paid as the third highest MLB player, the third highest contract in MLB history. Hasn't necessarily played up to expectations, but he's got something to prove there as well. You can go down this line. Addison Barger, we were writing him off kind of before the season started, along with a lot of other, I would say the majority of Blue Jays fans with a guy like that. So that the fact that he's come in and offered this kind of reduction, hitting 3 in this order, especially when we've needed a power bat so desperately, it's just so refreshing for a Toronto Blue Jays fan base. And that's the biggest difference from this year to last year, is that when you got down in a baseball game, you didn't have any faith that the offense was going to be able to come back, and you didn't have any faith that the bullpen was actually going to be able to put up zeros. Because even if the offense did kind of have a surge and storm back in that game, you would have thrown a Tim Mesa, Trevor Richards, whoever it may have been, and they would have blown up and given up 4 or 5 earned runs. I mean, at one point, we had Yari Rodriguez pitching last season. So just the transformation, obviously, with the offense, with the bullpen, just kind of this team in entirety, other than, I guess, that starting pitching, which we will talk about more in the second segment. I know I've alluded to that a bunch of times, but that is the one thing, the one major hole, obviously on this team right now, is the starting pitching. But when you have the other two fastest kind of firing all cylinders and really playing together, that is something that is going to lead to a lot of success for the Toronto Blue Jays, and that is one of the reasons why they've won 4 series in a row and have won 9 of their last 11 baseball games and sit now tied for the first wild card spot in the AL.
Yeah, man, and you're right. We are going to talk about the starting pitching in that third game because you have to. It's on everybody's mind because everything else is working out well for this team as of right now. And Carter, I mean, even in that third game, they get 3 runs, and we've seen this team win games 3-1. So can you really complain about the offensive production? I mean, maybe a little bit. Maybe you want more than 3 runs, but I think sometimes you can pull out a 3-something win, right, and get that done. So I'm not really overly harping on the offense, especially after sort of what they've done lately. And that's something I never thought I'd say for this team, is that I can't complain about the offense right now, but that's where we're at. So again, we got lots more to talk about. Obviously, we got to talk about Bowden Francis. There has been a corresponding move with Spencer Turnbull, so we will talk about that as well, and a whole bunch more. Obviously, we still got the series to preview. And you know what? I might have to grab myself a quick 1 a.m. coffee here to keep this going, but we'll be right back with a whole lot more for you guys.
Today's episode is sponsored by Wonderful Pistachios. Look for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious. Crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each one of serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help you keep feeling fuller longer. Obviously, we're living in Canada. The summer does not last a long time whatsoever. So I for one, have a very busy schedule. I know Braden obviously is on vacation, works a whole lot, wants to have social life, and obviously you guys want to balance that as well. So sometimes you have to make some sacrifices. You can't always eat that full meal that you want to have that energy to carry out whatever your busy life entails. So that's why I have been really turning to Wonderful Pistachios recently. I had the roasted and salted nuts when I was at work the other day. I was bartending at a restaurant, and just to have kind of in between customers, just quickly get a handful of those Wonderful Pistachios, throw them in, really can be satiated and energized for the entire night. So whether you're running between meetings or dropping off the kids, Wonderful Pistachios are the snack that works as hard as you do. Get snacking and get cracking with the snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. That's wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more.
So, Carter, just as we continue on here, we'll get into the Bowden Francis. You know what? screw it. Let's start with the Bowden Francis, because that's what's on the top of everybody's mind. And don't get me wrong, I could sit here and gloat and be thrilled about this team for an entire podcast. I'm sure that our guests for the rest of the week, the fill-in hosts, I guess, for the rest of the week that you'll have, probably will be doing some of that as well. So I don't want to step on toes. I've had a great time. I have been on vacation. I'll say, not the best way to do it, but I've streamed the games anyway. It might have been from some Russian account, but I've streamed the games, and I've had a blast watching this team succeed finally. So, but in saying all of that and saying all the good things around this team, it's time to talk about something that you're right. I said maybe we give it a couple more starts, but I think we're here. We're at the time where, what do you do with Bowden Francis? Yikes, dude.
Yeah, I just wanted to give a quick credit to you for being 14 hours away, obviously, from Manitoba, a long time away from Canada. I believe it's a 9-hour flight from Montreal, but obviously you're still getting your baseball in one way or another. It doesn't matter what the means are necessarily. Obviously, you're just committed to the craft, so you got to have a lot of respect for that. But getting into Bowden Francis, the big question is, what is Bowden Francis' problem right now? And unfortunately, there's a lot of them, in my opinion. I think the fastball just doesn't have the life that it did in 2024. You're seeing a lot of hitters get in front of that fastball, really just getting on top of it, hitting the ball hard. That's never going to play, especially as your primary pitch. The splitter just isn't really splitting too much. The movement isn't necessarily there. The command, obviously, is a major issue as well with pretty much all of his pitches, but really with the splitter, I'm not sure if it's mechanical or maybe it's a grip thing. It's hard to tell, obviously, on the TV, but you can just tell that he is kind of throwing it and hoping, it seems like. There's not a lot of action on it. Again, it's moving a little bit more laterally than we'd like to see. It's almost like a hanging slider the way it comes out sometimes. So obviously that's not going to play. I like that Bowden Francis in this start at least was trying to experiment a little bit more with that slider, giving hitters different looks. But again, when you're predominantly a 3-pitch pitcher and your main 2 pitches are your fastball, that, again, the command's all over the place and it doesn't necessarily have a lot of life, even though he is kind of hitting 94, 95 at some times. Seems like hitters are just seeing that pitch very well from either side of the plate. And then with the splitter, again, when you don't really have the command of that, you're really setting yourself up for failure. And we've really seen that with this Blue Jays team right now. I believe it's 19 home runs Bowden Francis has given up now after those 2 that, again, he gave up in this game. So that leads the major leagues and has led the major leagues for a while. So the question is, I guess I'll throw it back over to you before we get into the question. The question is what we do with Bowden Francis, but I'll throw it over to you if you're seeing anything else differently than I am when it comes to Bowden Francis and kind of some of the starts that he has been having recently.
No, you know what? You hit the nail on the head a couple podcasts ago when we were talking about Bowden Francis the last time. And that's the pure fact that he just isn't painting corners. It's either completely out of the zone or it's a cookie down the middle. And the stuff isn't breaking enough. You're 100% right. There's a lot wrong with Bowden Francis. And this is a guy that I had high hopes for and I wanted to do well. He seemed like a guy that, was just going to be able to find it and he was going to be good. But, like we've talked about on this podcast a ton, don't get too high, don't get too low. That comes down to the fact that you can't do that on players even. You can't do that on the team. You can't do that on players. And I think the fan base is pretty high on the team right now. But besides that, Bowden Francis really, I think everybody knows that it's a problem. And I guess let's get into it because the Blue Jays, literally as we're recording this, have recalled Spencer Turnbull from AAA. Paxton Schultz has been optioned, even though I think Paxton Schultz was great, but it's sort of where I don't want to say great. He was good. He was good for the role that they needed for him at the time. Now, what does Spencer Turnbull bring? This is a big question for me. I think a guy that hasn't done exceptionally well in his rehab starts, but obviously the Blue Jays are expecting something from him here. In your mind, Carter, is this bringing him in to be that 4th/5th starter, I guess, ahead of Bowden Francis? Or how is this being utilized? I would assume it goes into sort of what they were doing already is you hope to get four innings and then you turn it over the pen. Is that sort of what we're thinking here?
I think the only thing that they can do right now is they're kind of trying to put a Band-Aid on like a 6-inch open wound right now. It's not, I don't know if it's necessarily going to work, but I think what they're going to do with Spencer Turnbull here is, I think right now with just kind of the lack of pitching depth that you have in AAA, you're kind of waiting for Max Scherzer or Alek Manoah to make a return as well. So, and then obviously you're pretty far away from the trade deadline. So I'm not sure if you're going to be able to jump the gun on that. A lot of teams that are right now aren't even sure if they're going to sell, but if they are going to sell, they want to wait till closer to the trade deadline to see how much interest they can get. But right now, obviously, with your top three guys, we're not going to talk about them in this podcast, with Gosman, Bassett, and Barrios, they are going to be rock solid. They are going to give you a chance to win every single time. I think right now with the Eric Lauer, the Lau show, who's just been unbelievable for this Toronto Blue Jays team, I think right now you kind of have him as your fifth-day starter. He's been very good in the innings that he's gotten. And again, you really don't have a lot of other options. You got a lefty in the bullpen / this opener role. I think that's what you do with Eric Lauer. With Bowden Francis, so considering that they didn't send him down already for that Spencer Turnbull move, I think they're going to continue to try to just really hammer it with Pete Walker, try to work with him in between starts, and then have a very short leash. I think if he starts to, get into some trouble, giving up a couple runs early on, it's kind of the Bowden Francis / Spencer Turnbull show, if you want to say that. So I think what they'll do is they'll kind of have a split role between those two guys. Even if you get right now 2-3 innings from Bowden Francis, again, depending on how he is pitching, that's kind of what you roll with, or vice versa. Maybe throw Spencer Turnbull, see the length that you do get. But I think if I was John Schneider, Ross Atkins, and the Toronto Blue Jays front office, I think you throw Bowden Francis, because with Spencer Turnbull, I mean, it can't get as bad as Bowden. If you have a Bowden blow up, at least you do have Spencer Turnbull that can eat some innings. And if the blow up is bad enough, it doesn't really matter how Spencer Turnbull's pitching. You just kind of have to get out of that game, eating some innings. Because as we saw in this third game, the Toronto Blue Jays had literally no options at the end of this game. It was kind of like, can we just get through this game without somebody getting injured? Because when your starting pitcher only goes 3 to third innings and you don't really have another guy that, again, you don't have that long man because Eric Lauer is throwing on that fifth day, that is going to be trouble for this team. So I think that's really the only option you can have right now until you do get Max Scherzer and then Alek Manoah, which, I mean, you can't really rely on him, obviously, in the short term. So it's really Max Scherzer, or you kind of roll with the punches and you roll with the guys that you have right now. And in the short term, I think that's what the Toronto Blue Jays are at least going to try to do.
Yeah, and I guess that's the best answer you're going to get, right? Is
it's not a great answer necessarily, but I mean, what else is there?
No, exactly. And you know what? As soon as as I'm watching the game last night, I guess for you watching this, Bowden Francis started off immediately, and I'm like, oh, he doesn't have it again. That was my immediate thought was, oh no, here we go. And that is a problem you don't want to have. So maybe that is the right play. Maybe right now is, hey, if Bowden comes on and he can't locate, get Turnbull up right away and let him go, because you can't get down. And you know what? This wasn't even like the Blue Jays didn't even get down quickly, right? It wasn't ridiculously out of reach. And I think that you can expect that type of performance from Bowden Francis, where all of a sudden you're down 4 runs. And then it's like, oh my God, we got to now crawl our way back and somehow not give up any more runs. So maybe that's where you turn things to Spencer Turnbull, hopefully before it's a 4-run deficit, where you actually still give this team a chance and an opportunity. So yeah, again, you don't love it. Obviously you want Max Scherzer back, or you want Alek Manoah back, at least to give you something. But that's not an option right now. And who knows if Max Scherzer will ever be an option at this point. Obviously, still working through things, but we don't know how those rehab starts are going, because it's not the day of. He could look great through 40 pitches, but then the next day, his thumb could be on the floor. So who knows? I pray to God that we do get to see a little bit of Mad Max, but I at this point, I'm almost doubting that we see him almost at all, because I think if Alek Manoah comes back, there's your answer right there. And probably to the deadline, you probably see a move as well, if this team is still in the spot they are in. So I don't know. It's an interesting conversation. Let me know what you guys think. What is the move here? Because obviously the move isn't sending Bowden Francis down. Maybe it is, but I don't think it's a move this team wants to do. So now where do you go? Let us know in the comments down below what you guys think. I want to hear your guys' opinion. We've gotten some great comments, Carter, over the past couple days from people. So I want to shout out our listeners. It has been a little bit of a grueling year and a bit here to see where this baseball team has gone, and now to be in a position where this team is in a playoff spot. I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled that our listeners are liking the show. I'm thrilled that we get to have conversations with you guys in the comment section, or if it is on our fantasy app, or it's in the Discord, or some of you guys have messaged me Twitter, Instagram, and we've had some great conversations. So I just want to throw a big shout out to you guys, since we're 2/5 of the way through this season. So yeah, hat tips to all of you listening. It's been an amazing year. We have, and it's finally starting to pick back up. So I'm more excited than ever, Carter, about this baseball team. And I think for those of you watching our Twitter accounts, you can tell that this is an exciting time for us as well.
Oh, it absolutely is. It's the first time that we've had a little bit of faith in the Toronto Blue Jays team in a very long time. Again, winning does solve a ton of your problems. It just makes, again, watching Toronto Blue Jays a lot more exciting. I know me and you over this last week of baseball, we've been extremely excited to watch the Toronto Blue Jays games, whereas previously in 2023 and 2024, the narrative's kind of been like, oh no, we want to watch the Toronto Blue Jays game. And it's probably not going to be a very fun watch, especially when you're dialed in as we are, pretty much watching every single game of the season, no matter how good or bad this baseball team is. It's a whole lot more fun spending 2.5 hours of your day watching a team that is competitive rather than watching a team you know is going to hurt your soul throughout that entire experience. But there is, again, one more kind of negative thing that I do want to go over, and then I kind of want to spin zone it to the positives. Don't even need to spin zone it because the Toronto Blue Jays are playing very good baseball. It's just we've kind of spent this segment on the negatives. But one more thing with Bowden Francis is that kind of what you said earlier, and I said on a previous podcast, is that when this guy is missing the zone, or if he's throwing pitches right down the middle, like that's kind of your two options we've had recently, is that it's an absolute cookie, like as your words were, or it is not even a competitive pitch whatsoever and is way outside the strike zone. Today, Bowden Francis seemed like he had that in the back of his head because he did have 5 walks in this baseball game. A lot of the time, he was working these counts pretty late into the count, 2-2 counts, 3-2 counts, 3-1 counts, and a lot of the time he was, again, with that last pitch, not the most competitive pitch to end off an at-bat with, and then I guess that allowed a lot of these walks. But again, would you rather have, I guess, Bowden Francis walk 4 or 5 guys, or would you rather have him try to get more aggressive, as we kind of saw in that 4th inning, and then give up the home run ball? You're going to get hurt a lot less with walks than you are with the home run ball. But just unfortunately, the way this series has worked out, with what you got, again, from Eric Lauer, from Paxton Schultz in that first game, had to use a ton of your bullpen. Kevin Gausman kind of helped you out a little bit there. Going 6 innings, they really had to stretch him out for that instance as well. Then with Bowden Francis, again, you had to use a lot of guys who did throw a ton of pitches. And that is the other negative thing about with having Bowden Francis and Eric Lauer in this starting rotation. It's that Eric Lauer isn't necessarily pitching bad, but you're not getting length from any of these guys whatsoever. So that is putting a lot more pressure now, especially for tomorrow's game, on Jose Barrios to pitch 6, 7, maybe even 8 innings, because right now this bullpen is very taxed. It wasn't taxed, a month ago when people were saying that these guys were taxed. Now this is the real life. This bullpen is hurting, and they need some length from, again, some of their veterans. You got to expect them to give you some sort of length, but again, 7 or 8 innings from any starting pitcher is a tall task to ask for from any starting pitching staff. But again, I kind of want to get quickly over the rest of this third game. There's just a couple plays defensively that I did see. It's Aston Barger. There's a ball down the third base line. It hits the base 2, makes an unbelievable backhanded stab, throws a one-hop to Vladdy. Vladdy makes a very good pick. Vladdy's had a pretty good week and a half defensively. He's made a diving play out to his right to save kind of a Bo Bichette dribbler that he did bare hand. Again, Bryce Harper kind of beating him to that plate with a diving play at that first base bag. So Vladdy's looked pretty good defensively. And then Miles Straw just an absolute cannon from center field. Not really advertised as a very good arm, but absolutely guns down Royce Lewis. Like, it's actually not even close necessarily. So again, that was just a funny watch. It's always nice to see the team that, again, will probably be in line for their 3rd straight Team Gold Glove to be producing on defense, especially when that is their identity as a ball club.
Yeah, Carter, and you know what? I think that goes back to exactly what we talked about earlier in this episode. Is the fight and hard work mentality, and you know what? Going off of Vlad's defense too, I do see him starting to make a change with that. I know I criticize it a lot. Is the lunge from first base, right? Is the stretch, and it's too early sometimes, or it's just not in the direction it should be for that play. And I'm starting to see a little bit of change there. So I'm wondering if that's something he's working on, or that is in his head of, hey, wait, lunge to the ball. I'm not sure, but it's seeming to make a little bit of a difference. So again, I want to keep an eye on that sort of as the weeks go on to see if that does get any better. Again, we'll have to wait and see. That's something I noticed too, is that it's looking a little bit better. Is that going to make him another Gold Glove defender? I don't know, but I think it definitely will help him. So we'll see if that becomes a change. Carter, besides that, we do have a series preview to get to. I know you're going to talk a lot about this team with some of our guests over the next week because, I'm going to be a little hit and miss out here because I'm literally in the middle of the ocean right now. So hopefully those guys have some great insight. Obviously, Tristan Baranowski, Dallin Wilton, Skylar Peters, John Jay, all guys you've heard before. And they have some excellent insight and a little bit of a different view than me and you do when we talk about these games together all the time. And also, obviously, they watch the games maybe with a different critical eye, more of a fan base critical mind than we do of people that come onto a podcast and talk about it every single day. So again, they should be great. I'm really excited. You guys should be excited. They are pumped up more than ever to come on, I think, with how this team has been doing. So again, we're going to hit this series preview. We're going to take a quick break. We'll come back, obviously tee everything up so we can give Carter a nice little start to the week here without me for once. So we'll see how that goes. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. You guys know how much I love Game Time. I talk about it all the time. It's my number one ticketing place to go because they give you the best deals. They got their seat view. It really is unbelievable. Have you ever decided at the last minute to head to the ball game with friends or family? Maybe it's game day and you suddenly realize you want to be in the stands. That's exactly where Game Time comes in. It's the easiest way to grab last-minute tickets without the stress. With the money you save on tickets, you could splurge on food, drinks, merch, or even invite a bigger group to come with you. Game Time makes that possible. For me, it would be the beers. Trust me, saving money, a little bit of money on some tickets, always goes in my favor with getting a couple extra beers. Game Time makes buying tickets fast, simple. Prices on the app are actually drop as close as you get to the first pitch. So, as the game goes on, you'll see those prices come down, and they've got incredible last minute deals, clear seat views, and lowest price guaranteed that takes the worry out of buying tickets. Take the guesswork out of Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed.
Here, I'm going to take it. I'm going to cut you off here. So I'm going to take it off the top here. I'm going to take control of this podcast for the week. So we're starting now. But anyway, I couldn't go with good conscience go through into the series preview for, again, giving just a quick rundown of the last two games or the first two games of the series. I just wanted to give some shout outs in this game. The first one is the Tyler Heineman legacy game, getting a second home run of the season. Again, fastball right down the middle. Absolutely love to see that. But this is one play I did want to allude to is in the fourth inning. Kevin Gausman's starting to spiral. He's starting to walk a lot of batters in this game. Has a splitter down low. I believe it's to Ryan Jeffers, where Gausman does not like the call here whatsoever. Again, it is probably a ball, but you see your pitcher fire it up on the mound. And especially, again, with how the bullpen usage was the game before, if Kevin Gausman gets kicked out here, they are in a world of trouble. So I want to give a shout out to three players on this Toronto Blue Jays team and staff. First one is Tyler Heineman. For you see Kevin Gausman getting mad, kind of giving the ump the gears. Tyler Heineman puts himself between Gausman and the ump, kind of gets in his face, blocking that eye contact, which really de-escalated the situation, at least from the umpire standpoint. Then you had Vladimir Guerrero Jr. running from first base to kind of calm Kevin Gausman down. Obviously, all these players are alert that you need Kevin Gausman to pitch, especially with some of the starting pitching that you have seen previously from this team. And then John Schneider just sticking up for Kevin Gausman, coming out, kind of giving the umpire a piece of his mind on behalf of Kevin Gausman, because it's a lot easier to manage John Schneider getting kicked out of a baseball game than it is to manage Kevin Gausman getting kicked out as well. And then just shout out to Ernie Clement after that. Kevin Gausman, again, walks a couple guys, hits a guy, is starting to spiral out of control, but then Ernie Clement makes a good throw home to either Heineman, and then obviously they make the play and get out of that inning. One more thing that I did want to bring up in that game is just, again, Tyler Heineman. Again, I just wanted to talk about his legacy game with Duran coming in that ninth inning. Just the most casual flick of the wrist, hits a ball down the first base or the third base line. That's 101 the opposite way, and it looked like Tyler Heineman just wakes up and does that, like he just wakes up and brushes his teeth. Just wanted to give a shout out to him, and obviously Vladimir Guerrero Jr. For driving in that extra run, because Cody Clemens hits a home run, and that would have been a whole different story, and it might have changed the narrative of this entire series if the Toronto Blue Jays do not win that game. And then just from game one, I really just want to give a shout out to Bo Bichette with a nice hit with runners in scoring position off the end of the bat, but still muscles out to center field. And then George Springer continues to smash baseballs, 2 more home runs in this series. Obviously, pretty much winning the Toronto Blue Jays the second game of this series, as in Barger, a nice double down the line. But then George Springer hits an inside changeup into the seats off of Griffin Jacks. So again, just a huge series again from some of these guys on the Toronto Blue Jays that you expect to get production from. But Braden, I guess I will throw it over to you for this preview against the St. Louis Cardinals.
Yeah, and in classic us fashion here, I have another piece to throw in. Alejandro Kirk's defense behind the plate, where he throws that runner out at 1 in game 3, Carter. I mean, this is what I'm talking about from Alejandro Kirk, right? I thought that was going to honestly end up being a turning point in this ball game when Alejandro Kirk guns that guy at 1. I just thought
in the way he was pitching.
Yeah, I just thought it was going. I just thought it was going to be the moment that they needed to sort of come back in this game. Obviously, it didn't happen, but you got to shut out the catchers, man. We talked about the Alejandro Kirk, Tyler Heineman duo that it is. And these guys, those are plays that steal you games. If it's Tyler Heineman coming out on sort of the chop hit slash, well, not really bunt, but sort of bunt that he did in the last series, and throwing that guy out at first, or if it's Alejandro Kirk seeing a guy taking a big secondary lead and gunning to one, Vladdy being ready. It's stuff like that changes a ball game. So big shout out to those two guys. You're 100% right. That's the stuff. And again, going back, so shout out both catchers. But Carter, in saying that, obviously series preview to get to. One I'm very interested in, the St. Louis Cardinals. Obviously, I'm iffy on. I think even their fan base. I went and checked out the Locked On Cardinals page as well, Carter. And I think everybody's really unsure of what this team is going to be. Are they going to be a team that does make a push for the playoffs? Are they going to be a sort of a bottom feeder, or they're a mushy middle team? I don't know. I like the Cardinals. I think that they have some pieces that are okay. I think, again, this might be a series with the way the Toronto Blue Jays have been playing, that this team can really do some damage here. I'm not sure if you have the pitching matchups pulled up there, big guy, because I'm, again, out at sea, and apparently the score does not work properly when you're on a 7-hour time difference.
Yeah, I figured I might be setting you up for failure after I, rambled on about the Twin series and then kind of threw that over to you. But obviously, I do have the pitching matchups with a little bit better of Wi-Fi at the homestead, opposed to being in the middle of the sea. But anyway, the pitching matchups for this series, you do get obviously some vets from the Toronto Blue Jays, which is great to see after the uncertainty in this Twin series. But you have Jose Barrios coming off of one of probably his best start of the season, honestly. But he is going against Andrew Palante. Palante has a 4.91 ERA on the season. Again, that's not the greatest pitching matchup for the Cardinals. Advantage Toronto Blue Jays there. And then you got the Hound on the mound versus Miles Mikolas. That is another one that you got to hope to take advantage of here. And then you have the to be determined game. Probably has some sort of combination of Eric Lauer here. Maybe Spencer Turnbull makes some sort of start here. We'll have to see again how that does go off and how it plays out. But then you have Michael Liberator. I think that's how you pronounce that guy's name. I don't really know a lot about this guy, obviously. But this is, again, when you look at these pitching matchups, when you look at the on-paper matchups against an NL St. Louis Cardinals team, this is, again, a little bit of a team of mystery, really proving the doubters wrong so far this season, have some pretty good bats, obviously, in that lineup. So it's going to be interesting to see how the Toronto Blue Jays, again, against a team that will be competing down the stretch in the NL for a wildcard spot. It will be nice to see how this team does match up in this series. But I'll throw it over to you. Do you think the Toronto Blue Jays can continue on with this momentum and pick up their 5th straight series win?
Yeah, it's tough. I don't know. I have full confidence in this team right now. I think they're on an absolute heater. The hottest team in baseball, as I've seen a lot of people say right now, and I can't argue with them. So why would I turn my back on the team that, I'm praying to do well and praying to be good? So I'm going to say, yeah, I think they're grabbing 2 here and continuing on with this. I think this isn't the team to fall apart against. I think it's going to be a much better team, obviously, and I don't know. Again, I want to be super optimistic because this team has given me every single reason to trust them right now. And I think, like you said, with 2 of our good pitchers on the mound, I hate to say that, but 2 of our good pitchers on the mound, I think I like their odds more than I did against the Twins. So yeah, I'm going 2 for 3 here. I got to actually take a look and see what games I want to take. I think I got to go game 1, game 2 here, Carter. I don't think there's a better option. I don't know what's going to happen, obviously, in game 3, 100%. So I'm going game 1, game 2.
Yeah, you go in with your veterans. You definitely can't be opposed to that whatsoever. The way I've been trending with this Blue Jays stretch is a lot of the time I've been on kind of the conservative side, the more reserved side. I haven't really picked a ton of series wins, so I'm going to continue with that trend. I'm just going to say they're going to lose 2 out of 3 and then hope I pick every single game wrong once again, and the Toronto Blue Jays continue to prove me wrong and win a series. So I think they are going to win that Jose Barrios start. I think they are going to kind of continue on with that momentum. I'm going to get another great start from Barrios. And then Miles Mikolas is going to have a Randy Johnson type of performance. He's going to be literally Cy Young out there. I feel like just for some reason, Toronto Blue Jays are going to have a hard time getting to him really for no reason whatsoever. He's just one of those pitchers that somehow dials in on the Toronto Blue Jays, kind of like Grant Holmes did again from the Atlanta Braves. If you guys remember a little while back, and then that third game, again, just with kind of the uncertainty there, if Spencer Turnbull does make a start, hasn't necessarily been that good in a lot of his rehab appearances. So kind of jumping into this St. Louis Cardinals series with a team that does have a pretty good offense and has some bats in there that you should be a little bit scared of, especially for a guy, again, that hasn't pitched in the major leagues since last season. I think they might have a little bit of trouble in that game. But like I said, hopefully I am proven wrong. I just want this team to win as many baseball games as possible. Like Vladimir Guerrero Jr. says, he's always happy if the team is winning. And that's kind of the fence that I'm on as well. I would love to be proven wrong every single time and time again, on doubting some of these players, if that does lead to Toronto Blue Jays success. I don't understand the fans and in this fan base that try to just prey on the Toronto Blue Jays downfall just so they can prove a point, whether it's to their friends, whether it's to people on Twitter. Why not cheer for the team that you love watching day in and day out?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I think that's starting to change. With this team doing well, I think that's starting to change. But obviously, for this baseball team with a whole country behind them, yeah, it's what have you done for me lately, I guess. And so hopefully this team can continue to have success. So my Twitter feed can be all positive Blue Jays stuff instead of the, what's been a year and a half of negativity, it seems like. I just pray that this team does well. For those of you, again, we want to hear your comments, your thoughts, your feelings down below. Hit that subscribe button if you guys haven't already. I should probably go to bed because I'm right now in my hotel room. And yeah, I could probably, hit the hay right away. So Carter, any last words from you before we kick out of here for the evening or afternoon or whatever it is for you?
Yeah, my time, it's 6 o'clock. For the people in Toronto, it'll be 7 o'clock. Like, that matters to you guys anyway, because this comes out at the same time every single morning anyway. But just wanted to say thank you guys for watching. Like Braden kind of said earlier in this episode, the likes, comments, all the support recently, and just the narrative around this team has been a whole lot better, especially when you are kind of a part of the Toronto Blue Jays media at this point. But we have realized that about you guys, especially with the new people coming in, are not subscribed. So if you are tuning in, liking what you see, liking the analysis that we do provide on these podcasts, we would love it if you guys did subscribe. And obviously gave us your perspective on whether you agree with us, whether you disagree with us, whether you think we're the smartest people of all time, or you think we're complete idiots. We love every single comment. Obviously, we prefer the nice comments, but I do like to make fun of Braden. He likes to do the same thing to me if somebody does roast us in the comment section. So we always do like to have a good laugh, kind of keep these episodes for the most part lighthearted, because the Toronto Blue Jays, again, it's been a lot more fun to watch, and probably the most fun we've had watching this team in the last, I think it's fair to say, year and a half, especially with the kind of stretch and the round of baseball that they are playing right now. And obviously with some of these players, a lot of these players playing above what we expected as we progress down the line in this season. But for the last time, thank you guys for watching. And the guest kind of host shows will be persisting. We won't be with Braden, at least as the co-host. He might kind of pop in from time to time. But it's the Carter First show for the rest of the week. So thank you guys for watching, and we will talk to you guys again tomorrow.